Hello viewers, Super GT here. Welcome to another FIA manufacturers video on, of course, Gran Turismo Sport. Thank you for joining. Now, we join the qualifying session, aka the burning fuel session, aka killing the polar bears session, as I thought, since they've reduced the time to 5 minutes, that it wouldn't really be about fuel burning, but it still is. At least you can only burn fuel for 5 minutes and not 10. So we are saving the planet slowly. Now these qualifying sessions are sometimes, or quite often, very fiddly little sequences. And you can see that here because people want to queue up behind me to get my slipstream. I don't know why they want to queue up behind me. I'm not the quickest person here. So it turns into a funny little mini game here, as everyone wants to queue up behind me. We're going to come through here, and they think I'm just warming up the tyres or just waiting to get some space for my lap. But I'm just going to stop. Okay, off you go, guys. Go on then. You go in front. See what happens. And a lot of the time, people don't know actually what to do, so they're going to go even slower now. And turns out that TX3 Ignite comes through out of nowhere in the Nissan. And it turns out we're going to get his slipstream instead. So if I'd stayed there, I would have been at the front of the queue. I wouldn't have had any slipstream. But we pull the Joker out of the pack. We slow right down. And we use confusion on these guys. And they're not quite sure what to do. Okay, so we go now for our qualifying lap. Into Lagos. We've got one shot at this. One lap. Let's go and get it done. I do kind of wish that qualifying was without slipstream, as I really mess up the centre S there. Really wide, too narrow on the first bit and then too wide on the second. But we are on the slipstream, of course. We're going to gain a couple of tenths because of that. And like I said, I kind of wish that these qualifying sessions were without slipstream. You could say with ghosted cars, or just slipstream turned off or something, because sometimes it's just too much of a factor. And waiting and trying to queue up behind people. And you've seen in recent videos, for example the one at Tokyo Expressway, where basically all 20 cars was just going 1 mile an hour because none of them wanted to go at the front of the queue. And this is a very sort of common scenario in this game, given that the slipstream is well OP, bro. Needs to change, definitely needs to change. But that's the way it is, so basically deal with it. Okay, so decent-ish lap so far. It looked like I was gaining in the middle sector. The Nissan GTR there pulling away though as we come up towards the final corner on the circuit. Here we are then, a little bit wide of the apex, and that's going to be a theme of this video. The fact that my tyres are going to die of death. Now, coming across the line, it's going to be, at the time of setting the time, second, moved down to third. In fact, the guy in front, it turned out that he was the right person to follow because he set the pole position time, and it was a good decision therefore to follow him. It was kind of random luck that I chose him, but we got the right person to follow. We sit in 4th place eventually on the grid. So we've got the Nissan GTR on pole position as we go away from the line. 12 laps of Interlagos. Now the tyre wear is quite a factor in this one. Fuel isn't really much of a factor. It's all about the tyres. And when you have these races with the high tyre wear, really, it's going to be really evident which cars are good and which ones are bad on the tyres. So we're up against the Toyota 86 and the Cayman just in front, the Cayman just behind. And you've got these sort of lighter cars which tend to be better on their tyres. You've got the cars such as myself in the Lexus, a bit bigger, you see it's a bit beefier. The Nissan GTR on pole position as well. Chunky old things, and therefore not normally as good on the tyres. So it's going to be quite a tricky one. We'll see how it goes. Starting in 4th, and normally my objective is to just not move back from where I stop. So as long as I finish 4th or better, I'll be happy with that. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so through the infield, lap 1. You know how this goes. It's just a case of just trying to settle into the race and not get banished to the realm in some demonic way. That hasn't happened, so that's good. But we still have a couple of corners left. Guys behind And not having the best of laps, 1.5 seconds near enough as we come up to the final turn. Lap number 1. Clipping the apex nicely. Struggling a little bit there to keep up, but this is where this car is slightly stronger. So even though the two cars ahead have got the slipstream, they're not as good in a straight line. The Porsche Cayman and the 86, I would normally associate those cars with handling and, as a result, tyre wear. So on this straight, you see, as we come up here, as I can't get my words out, definitely gaining and into the braking zone of turn 1, much closer than we were at the end of the lap. And that bodes well for the future, I suppose, in terms of overtaking, as I can use that straight to overtake. That's pretty much always the best place to overtake, into turn 1. A couple of laps later, so you can see here pretty much the same situation, end of lap 3 now, as I'm just beginning to really feel the effects of death on my grip of my tyres. As we've got up the hill, we've got this Renault for company. Now, the strategy for this one was that you had to use the... pretty sure you just had to use the hards only, but you have the option for the medium and the hard. So you're pretty much going to do one stint on hard, one on medium. And it looks as though us top 4 here are going with the hard tyres, so we're pretty much even on the pace. And then the guy behind, I would assume, is on the medium tyre right now, and therefore should be a bit quicker. There he is in the Renault Megane Trophy, flashing his lights as we come down the hill. Guys up ahead going defensive, they're going to begin fighting. That's kind of good timing, as I'm just beginning to fall off this group actually, and I need to stay in the tow ideally, as just waiting for this car to come past from behind actually. If he's going to go for it, I don't really mind too much. If he's on the medium tyres, he should be a bit quicker, and therefore we can kind of follow him. Toyota 86 up the inside, goes into the lead. The Nissan GTR looks like he's falling back, and we're kind of in the same boat here, myself and that GTR, with the lack of grip on our tyres. So we're going to call Bono in the pits and just let him know, like Lewis Hamilton, that there is no grip left in this set of tyres, and maybe even whack up one of those Amazon graphics telling us the percentage of grip left. Because you can look at the bottom left of the screen as we get passed by the Renault. You can look at the bottom left of the screen, so go into the back of him, and a bit of a clumsy mistake. But that doesn't always indicate the exact tyre wear. So you can see on the bottom left of the screen, I'm just going to say it again, that the tyres are beginning to go red, and it only looks like a tiny amount, but that's not really a good indicator, because it doesn't always give you the correct sort of, I don't know how to describe this exactly. But you can see on, for example, my front right, it looks like it's 10% worn on that graphic, bottom left, but really it's a lot worse than that. Okay, 3 abreast through turn 1, and coming through Centre S, just edge him out onto right on the edge of the curb. As we come through onto the back straight, you can see just how close this is now. Top 2 look like they're pulling away, the Porsche and the Toyota, as we get further into the stint. As their tyres stay a little bit fresher, we're going to receive some contact from behind, go a little bit wide, and get back on the power as early as we can. We're going to lose a position to the Renault, to the Nissan, and we also have a Mercedes now joining the fight for good measure. So not an ideal situation there. We run up to 3rd, but then immediately now back into 5th. So we very much are in with the gang now. And this is the thing that you don't want. With the Mercedes up the inside, we're going to have to let him go. Basically not really got much grip remaining on these tyres, and these are the hard tyres. We're going to go on to the mediums next, which will be better on grip to begin with, but of course they're going to wear out a little bit quicker, so it's going to be a tough one towards the end of the race. Now coming through turn 11 is that Glock corner. Technically this next corner is that Glock corner, as we end this lap in 6th place, so not an ideal lap. Started it fairly well up in 3rd, now we're under pressure for our 6th place even, from the Croatian driver in the Porsche behind, but we're still in the tow, still in with a chance, so we're dropping down a couple of positions here. This is the thing you don't want. Normally, if you can just qualify a little bit better and just get away from this group, that's always a good thing. You see it in F1. The thing you want is to qualify at the front and just piss off into the distance and never see anyone ever again. As soon as you start getting into a fight with people in the mid-pack, we're going to lose a lot of time, and usually that's not a good thing. But we're going to come into the end of the pit lane here, so this half, we're going to come into the pits at the end of lap 6, halfway into the race. We're all going to come in here, so pretty much all of us going for the exact same strategy, although I think the Renault is on the opposite strategy of doing mediums then to hards, and most of us here doing hards to mediums. So off with the hards, on with the mediums. Lexus boys with a fantastic job there as we exit inside a Mercedes, interestingly. Now look at this. Sometimes this is a weird sort of occurrence. You exit inside another car, and it's actually going to help me here as we're going to ghost within each other. And the key thing here is just to stay to the left, just to make sure that I have the inside. So there we go. He pulls to the right, and I'm going to have the inside now. So it's a weird little gimmick that happens in these games. But we're going to get the inside on this Mercedes. If he had just stayed to the left, he would have had the inside. But there you go. Now look at this group. 5 of us fighting here for 4th position. This is going to get rather spicy as we come up the hill. The 3rd place not too far away. And as we said, he's gone for the opposite strategy. So he's going to be on the harder tyre now. And therefore we should be a little bit quicker. So we got the inside. To be honest, I didn't really want to do that move. He just seemed to brake really early. And I kind of had to go into the space that was there. And we finally settled into position back to where we were. Okay, so we can try to work together here, try to catch up with that Renault, who should be on the back foot in this stint. The top 2 have managed to eke out an extra lap on their tyres. That just shows you how much of an advantage they have on their tyres. So as we end lap number 7, the top 2 go into the pit lane. In fact, Johnny was on the mediums, so he's managed to make the medium tyres last 7 laps, which is really good going. And just shows you how much better some cars are on the tyres. Plus, of course, superior driving technique, but a lot of it is down to the cars. You're just limited by what your car can and can't do. And this is the thing about these FIA seasons. You just got to make the most of the races where your car is suited to the race, suited to the track, suited to the tyre multiplier, the fuel multiplier. Some cars are good on fuel, some cars are good on tyres, some are good on qualifying pace, some are good around certain tracks with long straights, and some with corners. You just got to make the most of your car when it really works. And on this occasion here, I think this is not perhaps the best race for this car because of the tyre wear, and it's struggling a little bit. I do need, ideally for this car you'd have a lot lower tyre wear and a lot longer straights, as this track, of course, it does have some straights, but not the longest in the world. Now we are beginning to catch up. After that pit stop for the top 2 guys, we are about 5 seconds off, which isn't too far, I suppose, but it's going to be a very difficult gap to try to reel in. The main priority here is getting 3rd place, I would say, as we are slowly but surely gaining on that Renault, with a couple of laps left to go. 4 laps to go after this one. Now through the long left, it's going to be an absolute killer on that outside right. As we come through that turn, I can hear my front right tyre writing its will as we go through there, and the death process begins. I think by about lap 10, 11, rigor mortis will begin happening. As we're going to give this guy a bump draft, and we're both going to start gaining. Look at the difference here in top speed. We've both got cars which are good in a straight line, and you also have the toe. So look how much of a difference. It's almost like he's in a different class. As the Nissan goes around the outside, the Megane comes back at him, bit of contact, shoves him very narrow, and as a result, he's going to force him back wide. And he's going to leave the circuit and rejoin behind. I'm going to try to go for the cutback here. It doesn't quite work. Should have gone around the outside perhaps. But that shows you that the guy behind in the Megane, to be honest, I think that was kind of deserved, the fact that he got ran out, because he forced the Nissan to go really, really wide on the way in, or really narrow on the way into the right-hander. And the Nissan is only going to do one thing, run wide on the way out. So that Renault could have been a bit more tactically aware about that. And he drops down into 6th place now. So 3.5 laps left to go. We're in with a shout of a podium all of a sudden. Well, I say all of a sudden, but technically we were in 4th at the start, and we were never too far away from 3rd place. I think 3rd place is about as good as it will be. So the gap to the leader has increased, now 6 seconds. So that gap is opening up. It'll be difficult to catch those guys, but we do have the guy in second in the Porsche on the hard tyre. So there's always a chance, given that we're on the medium. You never quite know what's going to happen. But it's always going to be difficult. Looking behind, the Croatian driver's kind of been lurking behind me for this whole race. And not quite within range to overtake, but just always kind of there. So you've kind of got to be aware of his presence and not get too complacent. The Nissan ahead, thinking about going defensive, just thinking about going to the left-hand side, moves back over to the racing line. Lap 10, so less than 3 laps to go now. Now through here, wasn't quite close enough. You either want to go for a move into turn 1 or at the bottom of this hill into turn 4. Not close enough on this occasion. Going to move ahead. Now this is the end of lap 10. I'll be close enough this time. So half a second the gap. And let's see how this one closes in. As we do, actually we set the quickest lap on lap 8 there. Well, it was at the time the quickest lap. Now the leaders actually set a quicker lap. So half a second down to 0.2 of a second. We gained 0.3 of a second there on that straight. Look how close we are to, I think we almost did touch there, through the apex to turn 1. So this is much better. We've definitely got a chance now into turn 4. Coming through the curve to Sol, into the Rita Aposta, downhill towards turn number 4. He's indicating to the right, and I'm going to go to the left, up the inside, on the brakes, exactly where we need to, clip the apex, and we're up into 3rd position. Okay, so with a lap and a half left to go, we have to keep this one, keep him at bay, keep him exactly where he is right now, and we can come home with a podium position. Not going to be easy, as of course we've said it before, the tyres are just dying of death. The process of rigor mortis has well and truly set in on these bad boys, especially the front tyres. You see that so many times on these exterior cameras. As I turn in, you just see the amount of understeer. It really is quite phenomenal. Now coming through the long, slow right-hander. Then you've got the long, faster left towards the final corner. Crucial corner this, as it sets you up in a position perhaps to go for a move into turn 1. You need to get that bit right. Get the final corner right. And then you're in a good place to go for a move. And I'm speaking on behalf of the Nissan here, because he's going to go for a move on me potentially, as his gap is 0.3 of a second as we go past the pit lane here and up to the line. Now it's a 3-way battle on the final lap. We've got the Cayman at the back looking for some extra positions here on the final lap of Interlagos. So through the Senna S, the car really beginning to get very slow. You see the downward trend of lap times, setting a 38.2 on lap 8 and then down to a 40.1 on lap 11, so slowly getting slower, or quickly getting slow you could say. Going to go defensive here into turn 4, on the brakes, a little bit narrower than normal, and you can see there just as we turn in, the tyres kind of squirm across the surface of the circuit. The tyres basically saying, I can't go in that quickly, I don't have any life left mate, and basically gives up on me. We concede the position, unfortunately. I felt as though I had to go defensive. Maybe I didn't, as he has kind of a weird lag spike there. This guy from South Africa, 2 bars of connection. Needs to get on the old blower to Mr. Wi-Fi password and sort out his connection, I think. But as we end this race, Mr. Ignite there in the Nissan just pulling away, and unfortunately we have this Croatian driver for company now. He's been stalking us for the entirety of the race, but now he actually has a real chance of getting this position. As we begin to slip away from that 3rd, it looks like it's going to be a fight just to keep our position here. Going to go somewhat defensive, take a weird sort of narrow line into the final turn, and I think that should be that, as the Cayman probably won't have the straight line advantage coming up to the finish line. Depending on the car, sometimes you can beat people to the line, but on this occasion we're going to finish in 4th, which is back to where we started. Kind of a topsy-turvy race, a good little battle though. It's a shame we couldn't keep the podium position on that final lap, but there you go, you can't always have it your own way. It was a good little lesson there of just trying to preserve your tyres as much as possible. Not an easy one to do in those circumstances in that car, but we kind of had a good battle with someone else who was also struggling with the same issue in that Nissan GTR. So it was a good fight, a good battle, and I certainly hope that you enjoyed this video as always. Now, if you'd like to see more Super GT stuff, then do give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram, all linked in the description below. But in the meantime, have a nice day everyone, and I shall see you in the next one. Goodbye.